If you're like most divorced dads I speak to, you live in an anxiety, anger, and guilt loop, and you're tired of it. The anxiety might be triggered by a message from your ex, or your kids misbehaving, or something happening. But soon enough, it flips to anger, and you just can't help yourself but to act on it. Despite the many promises to others and to yourself that you won't do this again, well, you still do. You can't help it. And inevitably, you regret your actions. You feel guilty and ashamed. Sounds familiar? Well, then you ask yourself, am I broken? Will I ever get out of this cycle? Why doesn't my willpower work here? And that's exactly the question I'm going to answer today. Not the therapy version of the answer, the actual mechanical explanation for why willpower doesn't work and what does. My name is Gleb Trubetskoy, and before becoming a somatic facilitator and a hypnotherapist, I was divorced twice, with one child from each relationship. And I work specifically with divorced dads who are stuck in this loop. So I've been where you are. And I mean that in a very specific way that I'm going to get to in a second. Now, if you're finding this channel for the first time and what I'm saying is landing, hit subscribe below. I put out content specifically for dads who are done managing this and ready to actually change it. Now, here's what most men think is happening when they lose it. They think it's a decision problem. They think they just need more discipline, more awareness, more commitment. They think that if they really truly wanted to stop, they would stop. And so when they don't stop this loop, they conclude that something must be wrong with them, that they're weak, or broken, or stupid, unworthy, unlovable, that they're like their father, that they're not who they thought they were. And that's the story that runs inside the head, and it's dead wrong. Not because it's trying to let you off the hook, no, but because it's pointing to the wrong problem. And when you're pointing at the wrong problem, of course, well, you cannot solve the right one, can you? So here's what is actually happening. Your nervous system that connects your brain with the rest of your body is a threat detection machine. It has been doing this job for over 50,000 years. So when it picks up a signal that reads as danger, not like a car accident or somebody pointing a gun at you, but danger like disrespect or chaos or loss of control or money loss or like a court threat, well, it fires. It activates your fight or flight response. And it does this in under a second. Faster than thought. Faster than the part of your brain that knows better. So by the time you think, I should stop, well, it's too late. The system has already launched. How many times were you in a moment? Your voice raised, your hands gesticulating, your face showing anger and aggression, and deep down in your heart, you knew you should not be doing this, but here you were. That's not weakness. That's how nervous systems are built. Think of it like this. Your nervous system is the fire alarm. It doesn't ask whether the smoke is from a fire that puts people's lives in danger or from toast. It doesn't pause to assess intent. It detects smoke and it goes. Automatic. The alarm is not the problem. The problem is that the smoke detector is set too sensitively, which is comprehensible after divorce. And when it's so sensitive, well, normal life keeps triggering it. A tone of voice, a look, text message from your ex, your kid pushing back the way kids push back because they're kids and they're normal kids. You're not in danger of death here. We agree? But your nervous system treats it as such. So here's the truth for you. You cannot willpower your way past the fire alarm that's already going off. You need to interrupt it before it fires. I want to tell you something I have never publicly disclosed. A few years ago, 6 to be more exact, I was in the kitchen with my ex. We were planning a family vacation. And she said something that landed wrong. I knew. I remember consciously telling myself, shut your mouth. Don't go there. Let it go. Well, guess what I did? I did not let it go. I said something back. She said something back. She escalated. And I just lost it. All the stuff I was suppressing and accumulating just found its way out. And look, I don't remember everything that happened in the next few minutes. I honestly blacked out. I remember screaming on top of my lungs. The kind of screaming that you don't even recognize your own voice. I don't know if you ever had that kind of screaming. I remember objects flying. I remember grabbing this big garbage can and just throwing across the kitchen. Plates were flying. And I remember at some point becoming aware of the room again. And this is what I saw. I saw my kids crying in fear. She was in shock. She was trembling. Damage everywhere I looked. That was the day she made the decision to leave. She didn't leave that day, but the decision was made. And my youngest son, who was small, like about 2.5 years old, he started being afraid of the dark after that. And he started being afraid of the gray wolf that came to him in his sleep for about 3 years. That's the day I became the gray wolf for my son. And that's not a metaphor. That is what I became in that kitchen. A large, loud, out of control thing that scared a small child in his own home where he's supposed to be safe because I'm supposed to protect his safety. And I didn't. And it's not because I'm a bad father, and it's not because I'm weak or mean, but because I never learned until that moment how to regulate myself. And listen, I had told myself 30 seconds before it started to stop. And I'm certain you have your own stories of being that gray wolf that you're too ashamed or afraid to share, where you knew you shouldn't do it, yet you did anyways. So when I tell you that willpower is not the answer, I'm not speaking from theory, I'm speaking from practice. And from speaking to guys like you, interviewing them time and again. Everybody has the exact same story. So what I didn't understand then, and what took me years of training, courses, and practice to understand and to get that, is that what fired in the kitchen had nothing to do with vacation. It had nothing to do with what she said. My nervous system has been running on threat mode for months. Every conversation was already loaded. Every interaction between us had become a source of activation. So when she said the thing that she said, it didn't land in a neutral body. It landed in a body that was already holding months of unprocessed pressure. Look, it's like throwing a match into a room that's been filling with gas. Boom! But the match is not the problem. The accumulation is the problem. And so here's what that means for you practically. If your nervous system is already activated when the moment arrives, and usually it is, let's be honest, well, then in that moment, you have almost no capacity to choose differently. The window is gone. You're already in the activation. The only intervention that works has to happen before the moment, not in it. I want to pause here and ask you something. Think about the last time you lost it. Maybe with your ex or with your kids. What was happening in the hours before, in the weeks, in the months, and maybe even years before in that relationship? How long had the pressure been building? Drop it in the comments. Not because I need to know, but because most men never actually looked at that sequence. And looking at it changes what you do next. It will also help for you to see other guys commenting and for other guys to see your comment. And there's a practice I teach in my program. I call that the reality check. It takes about 90 seconds. You run it in the morning before your day starts. And eventually you get comfortable with it. You run it multiple times per day. And what it does is give you a read on your current state, where your nervous system actually is, before the day puts pressure on it. Because here's what most men do. They walk out of a rough night of sleep, into a stressful morning, and into the first difficult conversation of the day, completely blind to the fact that they were already a 7 or an 8 before anything happened. The reality check doesn't fix everything, but it does one thing that willpower cannot. It creates a gap, a moment of awareness before you act. And that gap is where your choice to act actually lives. So I've put a free guide together as well at dadsrise.com that goes deeper into this. For example, the 2 layers of pain that most programs never address. The 3 things that were missing from every program the divorced dads I interviewed had already tried, and even from therapy. And the full RISE method. It's 10 minutes to read, and it's free. If this video landed, go and get it. The link is in the description. And I want to close with this. The man who screamed in that kitchen That's not who I am. But for a long time, I didn't know how to say it without sounding fake. Because that gray wolf, he was still there. He was still in me. And listen, what happened happened. I can't undo it. My son still carries something from that night that I did not put there on purpose, and I cannot take back. What I can tell you is this. The fact that you keep trying to stop, that matters. It tells you something about who you actually are. The man who wants to stop is not the same man as the slave to the pattern. They're two different things. And the work is not about shaming the man who loses it. It's about building something strong enough that the gray wolf doesn't get to drive again. That's what this channel is about. That's what I'm building with the men I work with. If you're ready to understand this at the level where it actually lives, go to dadsrise.com. The guide is free and it will show you exactly what's been missing. I'll see you in the next video. And remember, with Dads Rise, kids thrive. Take care.